Welcome to the Mom as Well podcast, where we are digging deep into the gifts and the gaps of foster and adoptive parenting. I'm Tara Hutton, and I'm glad you're here.
Mama's Well.
Yes, she is. Well, hi. Hey, today I want to talk about play. We're nearing, hopefully, the end of this COVID season, and my playful side is waning. And so I decided I needed to give myself a little playful pep talk, and you're included, so join me. I've used play as a parent. It's actually one of the most powerful tools that I have in my toolbox, but like sometimes I just don't feel like playing. And sometimes like play can seem on the total opposite end of the spectrum from parenting. Parenting means discipline and correction and protection, and play, like that they don't feel like the same. And who wants to play when your child is uncooperative and argumentative or disrespectful, or you're tired and your to-do list is a lot longer than the things you've already accomplished that day? So I get it. I totally get it. And then some of us are just more prone to that than others. Some of us were raised by playful, silly people, and some of us were raised by people who were more serious. So I get that. But there's always a but. Sometimes, a lot of times, probably more times than we think, play is exactly what's needed and probably the most effective tool that we can use. The experts actually say that play eases stress, it helps us engage cooperation, and it builds connection. And those are all super important things. Not only that, their play is well researched, and there are loads of benefits for play. But today we're going to talk about those three. Dr. Lawrence Cohen, which he wrote a book called Playful Parenting. It's a book that I had when my boys were young, pulled it out again. It's a great read or listen on Audible. But he says that play is the single most important parenting tool and skill. Actually, he calls it a skill that we could acquire. And the good news is he says that it's quite easy to learn. So I'm laughing because I think surely we all knew how to play at some point, but I think we've forgotten. I think we forget to play. And so, but again, the good news is if it's a skill, we can learn it. We can practice it. Practice reminds me. So a few years back when we started fostering, in an attempt to give myself much needed self-care that I was clearly lacking, I joined this beautiful, it wasn't even a gym, it was a club. And they had tons of group exercise, but the reason that I joined is because they had this fabulous child care program where they separated the kids by ages, they did crafts, they had separate rooms, they would rotate them, and it was a great opportunity. And my kids weren't in preschool or anything, so it was a great opportunity for me to have some self-care time and time alone, and for them to have some fun with other kids. So I joined, and one of the classes that I was introduced to was new for me, was yoga. And I remember going up to the room and, not exactly knowing what to expect. I mean, I know what yoga is, but I hadn't ever really, and here's the word, practiced yoga. That's the word that the instructor would use. They would say, if you're new to the practice, you might try this pose. And if you've been practicing for a while, you might do this. And so I just enjoyed the whole experience. I loved the lighting of the room and the music and the voice of the instructor. And I loved, it has just a whole compassionate, non-judgmental feel. As a matter of fact, they say, let go of any judgment of yourself or what other people in the room are doing. So, I'm new to yoga. It's not that I haven't ever exercised, but my experience with exercise has been lifting weights and several years back, I won't say when, I ran a marathon. And there were several races, half marathons, other races leading up to the marathon. Well, words like no judgment or practice. Yeah, we practiced. We ran all the time, but the goal was never about being in the moment, as it is in yoga. The goal was get to the finish line. Let's get this over. My goal wasn't even about time. I just wanted to finish it. So I think that's a great comparison to parenting. Like, sometimes I think our goal is to just get them to bed, right? Our goal is just to get them to do what we want them to do. And we forget the journey. We forget the part along the way to where we get to the end of the class or the finish line. And so I want to take that word practice and just apply it to parenting. And right now I want to talk about practicing playful parenting. So, and not the practice makes perfect. We're not here for perfection. This isn't another thing for us to be critical or judgmental about towards ourselves. Remember, in yoga, don't judge. There's no judgment. Let go of judgment about how far you can bend over or move into this pose or whatever. We're going to let go of all of that. We're going to think yoga, practicing playful parenting in yoga. We're just getting a little better. Does that make sense? Just getting a little better. So when I think of a playful parent, though, the person that comes to mind, a couple of people come to mind, but the first person that comes to mind is a family that lives in our neighborhood. And when my boys were young, he was constantly being invited by the father of this family named Mr. H. They still live in our neighborhood. Their kids are grown. But they lived on the golf course, and he was constantly rallying the kids in the neighborhood to come play kickball or bocce ball or basketball or flashlight tag or hide and seek or whatever. I mean, this guy epitomizes the playful parent. And he didn't just arrange it and blow the whistle, like he played. He was so fun, and the boys love him. And if they saw him today, they'd give him a big hug. So, maybe that came easy to him. Maybe he practiced it. For some of us, that would take a lot of practice. I tend to think that was just part of who he was, and he just, that kind of flowed naturally. Another person I think about was, as a teacher, my first teaching, actually it was my second teaching job, my assistant principal, Jan Kelly. I love Jan Kelly, still do. She did a beautiful job of using playfulness and humor in everything. In a teacher's meeting, she might take her glass and tip her pencil on it to get our attention. She was being silly, but she was accomplishing what she needed, and that was our attention. My favorite thing that she did we would be on the playground, and this happened all the time in elementary school, but I carry Band-Aids in my pockets because there's always mishaps on the playground, but a child might run up to you and they're in tears, they're upset, and maybe another one's right there crying too. It usually happens in pairs, and they've got a scraped knee. Well, Jan Kelly would immediately, and this is in the day of pantyhose, pull off her shoe and call the ambulance on their shoe phone. And what happens? Well, immediately there's a shift in the whole energy of the situation where the kid's crying and maybe blaming. All of a sudden, they're both laughing, right? And then you have an opportunity to get the Band-Aid or wipe the knee or send them in for a drink and whatever, meet the need, right? But first, she was able to ease that emotional distress with some humor. So I love that about her, and I was always studying and copying some of the things that she would do, and just inspiring, and it works. It works. So one of the ways, I told you we're going to talk about 3 ways that play is a useful tool in our parenting toolbox. And one of the ways is what I like to say, getting stuff done, because we have a big family. There's 7 of us. So I can't do everything, and sometimes, I got to teach everybody, we got to get stuff done. Sometimes we got to clean up, sometimes we got to eat, sometimes we got to get in the car. And I can spend my day barking those orders, and I do, but when I'm fresh, when I'm aware, I try to use play. So that might look like pretending to be a silly waitress with a funny accent to get them to come in and have lunch. Or maybe when they don't like what we're serving for lunch, I may have some playful banter, usually in another accent, to get them to try what I'm serving. Sometimes when there's jackets laying on the floor in the car that getting stepped on again and again, I might make the jacket talk and say, "Oh, that's really hurts." And, I don't even have to say pick up the jacket because they know I'm going to pick up the jacket. That's funny. And they laugh. Let's see. I wrote some down. Sometimes we make a game of cleaning the playroom. Sometimes we used to have an Alexa in the room. We left it outside and now it doesn't work. But we would say, "Hey, play the cleanup song." And actually, if you say that to Alexa, there's a funny song. It's the cleanup song. And so we would turn on the cleanup song and we would toss our toys into the tubs, or we would dance across the room to put up the dress-up clothes. And so we just try to make it a little more fun. And it's really helpful. It actually works. It can shift the mood of something that you don't want to do into something that's not so bad and doesn't take so long. Play also helps us, and I've mentioned this already when I talked about Jan Kelly, but it also helps us with relieving emotional distress. So that's what she was doing on the playground, is she was shifting the mood from fear or some sort of anxiety to laughter, And so that helps us move through things that are hard. And we've all heard that laughter is the best medicine. And, there's probably some truth to that. I was trying to remember for myself a time when laughter really was the best medicine. And it's a sad time in my life. In 2011, my mom passed away very quickly with cancer. And but earlier in that year, my son, who was young at the time, we have a tree in our backyard that leans like this, and he wanted a rope swing, like a disc, a rope. He put a disc on a rope, and he did this himself. I think he was probably, what would he have been, 13, I'm guessing, maybe, something like that. And he hung this rope swing up in the tree. And it was fun, and it was novel, and we still have the rope swing. We've had the tree trimmed and retied, and so it's hopefully secure. But my husband could swing us so far back that we could almost touch the tree ahead. And you can't help but laugh, like your stomach lurches, and you just laugh. And so I spent every day with my dad and my mom during that season, and I would come home defeated, exhausted, afraid. I mean, there was some serious emotional distress going on in my life and all of our lives. But Kyle would see that, and as medicine, he would say, "Come on out here. I'm going to swing you on the rope swing." And usually I'd say, I'm too tired. He'd say, "Nope. Come on out here. We're getting on the rope swing." And he would pull me back and do it. And I didn't want to get off. Once I got on, I didn't want to get off because it was so fun. And I think, when I think about what was happening, I was pulled from the past of what had gone on to the day. I was pulled away from the present, the future, about what was going to happen to my mom, what was going to happen to my dad. And I was brought into the moment, the right now. And right now, I was having fun, and I was laughing. And I think that that's what play can do. It can pull us into the moment, and we can enjoy it and laugh, and that relieves emotional distress. So Dr. Cohen talks about a child going to the doctor to get a vaccine. And, of course, any of us who've done that know that's not fun. And so, but what happens, and this is common, but the child comes home, we get home from the doctor's office, and what does the child want to play? Doctor, if you don't know. They want to play doctor. But this time, are they ever going to play the child that gets the shot? Oh, no. they want to play the doctor or the nurse. And so they play the doctor or the nurse, right, that's giving the shot, and you get to be the patient, right? And when they give you the shot, what do? Oh, no, that hurts so bad. And you cry and you cry and you cry. And what do? You better know the answer to this. They laugh. They think that is so funny that you're getting the shot and they're not. And I loved hearing that story because I thought, man, that's really sinister. I've played this game with my kids. They're the bad parent, they're the bad teacher, and you're the child being disciplined or getting the shot or whatever. And they think it's so funny, right? They're laughing and laughing and laughing. And then, of course, you're laughing and laughing. So Dr. Cohen explains it, and it makes perfect sense. But our kids often feel powerless, right? That's what they're feeling when they're getting a shot. That's what they're feeling when they're being disciplined. That's what they're feeling when it's you're choosing the clothes or what time we turn off the TV or what time we go to bed. And when they get to be the doctor, role reversal, right? They get to be the one in charge. They get to be the one who feels powerful. And you get to be the powerless one. So their emotional distress is again released through giggles. And they usually want to play this game not just one time, but like 10 times. So you play it and you play it and you play it until they've processed it. And it's so beautiful. I thought, that's brilliant. I had no idea that's what was happening. A great game. And it happens naturally. When you're aware, you're going to see it. You're going to see it happening. So children are processing their emotions through play. They're not writing in journals. They're processing in play. So far, let's talk about what we've talked about. We've talked about play engages cooperation. Remember, those were the silly games that I was playing to try to get them to do the things I need them to do. And then it helps them recover from emotional distress. That's what we just talked about. It helped me recover from emotional distress. But it also establishes connection. And I think this is probably the easiest one for us to recognize. I mean, who doesn't know that when we sit down and play Legos or color or play with trains or Play-Doh, when we're actively engaged and present with the child, not with our phone, not with the TV, but playing, playing, that builds connection and bonding. My girls, as soon as Kyle gets home, I mean, the second he gets home, they want to wrestle. Like, he's just the one that wrestles with them. I mean, I should wrestle with them, but he does it. So I just think, well, that's great. That's the way they bond. So they wrestle, and that's the way that they connect with them. So that one's pretty easy to see, but I think it's pretty hard to do. So we can see the value in that, but sometimes the whole day gets away from us, and we haven't played. And usually it's those days that I notice a lot of whining and complaining and fighting between each other. It's those days that I notice this kind of stuff. And so, you know what? I think that, I know that if I just took a few minutes each day to play, my life would be so much easier. So one of the things that I've read and have come to understand is that when we are playing with our kids, we just talked about this, but we have to make time, right? Because it's those days, like I said, that when they aren't, they're whining, right? They're fussing. They needed my attention, and I've been busy and I've been distracted, and I haven't engaged with them. Those are the days that I notice I probably haven't played. So when we play with our kids, one of the most important things that I've been taught is that we have to let them lead. So sometimes, and actually that's easier for me because I don't always know how to play family, which is something my girls love to play, or dollhouse. I don't know exactly what to do, Hi, girls, it's time to go to bed. I can do that kind of stuff, but it makes it a little bit easier if I just let them lead. So I might just ask them, who do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? And then they start, and I just kind of sit back and watch, and I don't really have to do a whole lot to play with them. Really, I just kind of have to be there. So I've found that if I just do that, if I just put it on my to-do list. If my to-do list is keeping me from playing, then add play to my to-do list, because actually it's not just something fun that they like to do, it's a need. And if I fill that need, if I fill these little empty buckets, we all benefit, right? We're all going to have a better day if I can do that. So, but again, back to the buckets. It's hard to fill another person's empty bucket if mine is empty, right? So I've got to make sure that adults need to play, right? I can take myself pretty seriously sometimes. And when I'm in that mode, play is the last thing on my list. So I've got to remember to take time to play. I've got to remember to have lunch with my friends or coffee with my friends or watch a funny movie instead of some documentary all the time. Laugh. And a lot of times I'm laughing at myself, and that's the truth. Ask anyone in my family. Kids are always finding a way to invite us to find these little pieces of ourselves that we've lost. And again, I mean, we can't give what we don't have. Let's see. Learning to laugh at myself. Okay, this is definitely something that when you have boys, if you're a mother of boys, you got to learn to do this, right? Because I don't always understand their humor, and they don't get mine a lot. So a lot of times my humor, I'm the only one laughing at it. I remember a time where my son Kason was like a preteen, and we were riding in the car together, and I said something that I thought was absolutely hilarious, right? But he didn't think it was hilarious, and so his comment to me was, "Mom, you're so weird." Well, for whatever reason, I took that very personally, and it hurt my feelings. And I laugh at myself now that it hurt my feelings, but he noticed the look on my face. I don't have a poker face, and he said, "Oh, Mom, weird's cool." And so I laughed, and I said, "Oh, weird's cool." And so now that's kind of a running joke in my house. When I say something and they look at me like I'm weird, I just say, "Hey, Kason says weird's cool." And I want to be cool. So laughing at myself, not taking it personally, I mean, those are things we got to be mindful of and practice. Okay, let's summarize this. All right, play. It helps us engage cooperation. It helps us to relieve emotional distress, and it helps us to build connection. I mean, all of those things are win-wins, right? We need all of those things. And most importantly, we got to remember what we talked about at the beginning. Remember yoga and the marathon. Parenting and practicing playfulness is a practice, is exactly what I just said. It's a practice. It's not something to beat ourselves up over. And here's what I'm going to suggest, and I'm going to do this week too, because remember I started this whole thing by saying that my playfulness was kind of waning, and it is. And I need to instigate and to just put back in some more play, some more fun, some more laughter, because I mean honestly, this has been a heavy season. When we've been homeschooling, we've been shut in, we've been watching things that give us anxiety on the news and social media. So play is in order right now. We're going to set a timer. And so I think a timer is a great method. I use a timer in a lot of areas in my life. Like I have windows all across the back of my house. They're floor to ceiling. I absolutely love them. But when they're dirty, especially in the morning, I mean, I don't like to look through them. So I've figured out that I can wash, clean, whatever, window. Each side of the window takes me 2 minutes. So if there's 9 windows, if I can clean all of those 9 windows in like 18 minutes. I mean, that's pretty cool. And if you add, 18 minutes, just add 15 more minutes to move ladders and to get more paper towels or whatever, and you're still under an hour and my windows are clean. So I have to think about it like that. I can unload my dishwasher in 5. I mean, there's certain things that I just don't want to do, so I set a timer. So it's not that I don't want to play, but sometimes people like me who aren't used to this, my parents weren't like this. They weren't Mr. H and Jan Kelly. So I got to set a timer, and I have to see it as a time that I put my phone down and I focus in on what they're playing. And it's great if I can do it individually. So if I can play just a little while with Skyla, and if I can play just a little while with Trinity separately, and then maybe, there's always time where I'm playing together. And then my older son, Carter, that's a hard one because he plays games, like video games, that I don't understand at all. But we have a ping pong table, and that's a way that I've tried. I'm actually getting better at ping pong, but that's a way that I try to play with him, because he needs me to play with him too. And so, anyway, instead of feeling overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, I can't get to everyone, this week I'm committed to just setting a timer. And they don't have to know that. They don't need to know, oh, your 10 minutes is up. It's for me. It's for me to practice something that's a little bit hard for me. So, okay, we're going to continue this conversation on play next week with an expert on play. Her name is Kelly Cole, and she is a licensed professional counselor, also a registered play therapist. And she's got a lot of good insight to play. She's been doing this for decades, and I think you'll enjoy her. So join us here again next week as we're going to hear from Kelly Cole and all the things that she has to say about play. Thank you for listening, and I hope you are inspired and encouraged to either begin a practice of play or to continue your practice of play. Remember to like and subscribe. You can leave comments or questions below in the comments. Your Wisdom from the Well card. Don't forget, you can click on the link in the show notes to get your Wisdom from the Well cards. And today it's going to say, find 10 minutes of play today. Okay, we're all going to be doing that next week, all right? And thank you for joining us. Join us again next week on the Mom as Well podcast as we continue to dig deep into the gifts and the gaps in foster and adoptive parenting.
Mama's well.
Yes, she